All right, good evening. Welcome to ACIM Talks with Reverend Jim, and we're starting a brand new year. So let me say Happy New Year to everybody. I hope your holidays were enjoyable and restful, and that you're got your batteries charged for a new year of activity. Our activity, of course, is ACIM related things. We're still doing the Charles Anderson ACIM and 12-step comparison. And we've also got some new material in the pipeline for discussion, and we'll talk more about that later. But since we are getting started again, something that I thought might be fitting for an experienced group like ours is to take a look at this video that I happen to see on YouTube about Helen Schuckman discussing the nature of this voice that gave her the message of the self-study book, A Course in Miracles. So I don't know if you've seen it before, but I thought you might find it of interest. So if it's okay, let's start out our evening by sharing that. Now, the runtime on the video is about 13 minutes, just so you know. And then after that, we'll get back into our discussion with Charles Anderson and ACIM and the 12-step program. So without further ado, I'll put the video on. I wish I could have brought popcorn and stuff like that, but as great as Zoom is, we haven't quite worked that part out yet. But I hope you'll enjoy the video and that you'll find it to be of some value for us. So let me get that up here. And I think I had the link right here in my agenda. And let's see. Yeah, there we go.
Shocking dental news. Traditional dental products may be destroying
Here.
essential bacteria that preserve your oral health.
Sorry.
Discover our new oral probiotic remedy for healthy gums and teeth. Recent.
All right. The commercial world, huh? Well, this may not be working out here. Hold on. All I want to do, let's start over. My apologies. Okay. All right, that might. Can everybody hear it?
Yeah.
Good deal.
Regarding the voice you heard in describing A Course in Miracles, does it come from outside or from within?
There's nothing that I would call ordinary audition about this at all. It doesn't really... It's a curious thing, and it will be very difficult to explain. Somebody asked me, was it as though your hand was moving? No, I wrote perfectly voluntarily. In response to, I call it a voice, but a voice sounds as though it has something to do with hearing. I didn't hear anything. I think it's a sort of hearing that you can't really describe. It doesn't have anything to do with ears or waves hitting a drum or anything on that order. I don't really know. I think maybe I'm using the wrong word when I say hear. I sort of recognized it. It was very rapid. I could even, if I didn't catch a phrase, I could sort of say, would you mind doing that again, you know?
This was in your mind?
This is strictly mental. Otherwise, I would consider it hallucinatory activity. I don't feel it was that.
Is it comparable to anything in terms of how we hear ourselves talk, or like you talk to yourself?
It wasn't my voice. It couldn't have been, because it talked about a whole area with which I am entirely unfamiliar.
What about subvocalizing? When you're subvocalizing, you're hearing the words. You're actually hearing them.
No, there's no vocalization. It's a process that I really would find impossible to explain. It's never happened to me before. I don't have any knowledge of the area so that I wouldn't be able to say like X or whatever it is, because I wouldn't know what X did.
You could hear the words clearly in your mind even though you didn't hear a sound?
I knew that that was the word. I think knew may be a better word than heard. I did not know consciously at the beginning of the sentence how it was going to end, and that puts me under a further handicap in terms of ordinary language, because ordinarily, I think if you're going to say a sentence, you know what it's going to be. You sort of get the gestalt immediately. But I didn't. And it came very easily, very rapidly, very smoothly, I guess even painlessly, except that it annoyed me to death, but that's irrelevant. I guess here isn't the right word. I could stop any time or pick it up any time, and I did in cabs and subways and anything, or sort of between telephone calls. But you're raising a question I don't think, Dave, I can answer. I really am trying.
So a certain mechanism went on there, because you heard something, you translated into the shorthand style.
Yes, but I'm used to shorthand. I use it for group therapy sessions, so that shorthand is quite familiar to me.
So you don't even
It was really a matter of speed.
So you really
I
have to
couldn't
think.
have kept up with it in ordinary writing.
Oh, you couldn't?
Oh, no, it's very rapid. I needed the shorthand.
What about automatic writing? A thing when pen takes over and writes for the person. The person doesn't have any control. Is that similar to what you're describing?
No, that didn't happen at all. I could have stopped at any kind, and I frequently did. And I was very frequently interrupted, so that I would have to stop there. I didn't lose awareness of where I was or what I was doing. My interns kept barging in for therapy sessions. Now, Bill always says, well, I'm just naturally dissociated, which I never take as a compliment. But maybe it's that, and I think in a sense it must be, because I haven't caught up with it yet. And I don't understand it, and I still feel very baffled by it. And I'm also still just a little uncomfortable with the material, but I'm getting used to it now. And I'm also getting used to a feeling that it was the right thing to have done. The only curious thing that I do know, and this is curious, I am used to doing pretty much what I want to, and I do make my own decisions. But for some reason or other, it never occurred to me not to do this. I thought that this should be done. I made every effort to keep it without me. I did not want to intrude on it, and I felt that it was a matter of personal integrity not to. I really did not interfere with it. I think the thing that I found upsetting about it was that it went against everything I believed, which is very hard to do. But I felt it was much more important. I know what I believe, but I didn't know what this was going to do next. And I was very pleased with its coherence and with its being very consistent, which is something that I would regard as a mandatory criterion.
5 words you pronounce wrong 2 years before your brain starts shutting down. Dementia is now known as type 3 diabetes, according to the Mayo Clinic, where doctors have made a shocking discovery that changes everything we know about memory loss and mental decline. So if you or a loved one is often forgetting things or suffering with brain fog, then you must see this. After 3...
It read very well. And I know the pain with which I managed to get something to read halfway as well as that, which is very agonizing. And this came out very quickly, talked about a system I don't know anything about, and confused me no end. I'm still cross-eyed. That's all I can really say about it.
Tried to edit it at times, didn't you?
Yes, I did. It would bother me, and I would never forget what it was originally, and I would feel kind of uneasy about it. But since I do so much editing, I figured, well, I'm improving this, you know, and that's it. But then later, when it would pick it up again and refer back to that, then it would be inconsistent because it would use the original word. So then I very quickly learned, don't do that because you will interfere with the internal consistency. So then I stopped doing that. Very quickly I learned that that was a very bad mistake. So we went back and we changed all the words back into its original form.
Did you remember the word, or did you have to go back and just ask at the time?
And I used to tell Bill that used to be, you know, whatever it was. But sometimes, I wouldn't say more than 2 or 3 times, I didn't know. But I was aware that there was a goof-off in through there, and I would feel the goof-off more than the right answer. And then I would sort of look at a blackboard so in my head and see it written, the word it should have been. And I would ask, can I see it on the blackboard?
You would ask and also see it?
Yes, if I was undecided. I'd forgotten to mention that.
Would there also be that knowingness that accompanies it like?
No, then I would be reading it, because on the blackboard I would see it in letters.
Then it was a very visual thing in your mind.
And then it was visual. Ordinarily it isn't. But I think that that modality had to come in where I had kind of lost my way in it, and I really didn't know what the word should be.
Could you close this off any time you didn't want to hear or do it?
Oh, yes.
In other words, it was strictly your option.
Oh, very much. Except that it kind of nudges me if I didn't do it when I was sort of supposed to. Sometimes I couldn't sleep, and then I would become very restless. And at one point, I didn't do it for about 3 weeks. I felt quite pushed around by this, and enough is enough. And it was kind of a rough 3 weeks. But I didn't know when it was finished, and I didn't know when I was supposed to stop. The course came first. Well, the text is what we originally had called the course. The text is the right word for it. That came first, and when that was through, I think there was something like a 3-month hiatus.
You had no urge to write then?
A while before I started in again, I said to Bill and also to Jonathan, I have a horrible feeling there's a workbook that goes with this, but maybe it's just a, you know, maybe I'm going to be let off on this one. But I did know it, and it became increasingly clear that that was it. And I knew at that time there would also be a teacher's manual, because that's obviously what professors have to teach with. And I did feel that it was going to organize itself in that way. And it did.
Do you feel that it's over now?
I think so. I think so. The only thing that I might be able to do, although I would hesitate to do it, because I feel very strongly that my commitment included having nothing to do with anything psychic. I feel that very strongly. I think I told you the story of the original commitment in that line. If I didn't, it's in my autobiography, and you'll see it. I think it's through. I do think, and under certain circumstances, I might be able to do this and might want to, if it were very helpful to somebody. I think there are questions I could probably write an answer to.
How did you get off metformin? I use the 10-second peanut trick. What's the 10-second peanut trick? It's a delicious way to naturally stabilize your blood sugar. How does it naturally stabilize your blood?
But I think I would really want to do that, not as a major part of anything, because I don't think it's very important, but if someone were in trouble and it would be helpful, I might try to do it. I haven't had any occasion yet.
So you continue to hear the voice?
Oh no, I could ask what to do about something, particularly if the three of us are together. And we would ask, and we would get an answer. We generally get the same answer. If we don't, we'll sort of feel somebody's off a little bit, and we'll try again. But we generally do. According to the course, we should, and everyone could, ask about anything and get an answer. Sometimes it's very surprising to me, and one of the things that I think we mistakenly do is to figure, oh, well, this is unimportant, or this is, you know, this, or to cut out certain areas from the process of asking, which I'm sure is a mistake, because I don't think we should evaluate. I think you can ask anything. And I would doubt very much if anything is likely to happen to me that wouldn't happen to anybody else. If he wanted it to. I mean, or if he felt this was the way he wanted to go. I can't imagine that. In fact, I'm sure it isn't true. The course is rather explicit on that.
So you do hear now and then.
I hear whenever I ask.
In other words, at this point now, it's really a matter of asking.
Well, now it's a little more a question of personal guidance as to what to do. We didn't know whether we were supposed to come here, for example, so we asked about that, and we all three thought we should come to California. This was not where we intended to go. And we did feel that Judy sort of came, you know, at a particular time. We felt very much that she was an integral part of this. But we asked for this because I've been very, very careful about this. I am a very careless person in some ways. I lose everything. But I never lost anything of this course. People would stop me in the subway and say, "Miss, you forgot your something or other," and hand it back to me. Taxis would honk their horns, you know, and say, "You left something in the back seat." My secretary would say, "Are you sure this belongs in this case report? Doesn't sound right." And it was impossible to lose this course, and I tried. But it sort of kind of followed me around in an odd kind of way. People would send it back to me, anything, you know, and I always got it back. And we never lost anything, which is incredible for me. You have to know me because I really do lose anything. We once went to a game thing, you know, where you had to guess from a one-sentence thing who it was. And somebody said, "My God, where is it?" And the whole faculty said, "Helen Schuckman." They recognized it immediately. I'm better now. I think this has been a good experience.
You're the absent-minded professor type?
No more. Now I'm just absent-minded.
Okay, my sincere apologies, my friends. I think that's the worst performance I've done. I don't remember the ads in my viewing of this, but it is what it is. I hope you got something out of that to kind of hear firsthand from the famous Helen Schuckman and kind of her as a human, right? I got a lot of insights into her personality and that. Hey, Joan, were you able to follow this? I forgot you had some deficits. How was it for you?
When she talked real fast, I had a difficult time with it. The interviewer, I heard much better because he spoke more slowly, but I got enough, so I'm used to piecing things together.
Yeah, I guess you are pretty good at it. But again, with all the mistakes and whatever, I hope you found it enjoyable to hear from Helen. And did you hear what she said about when she started trying to edit that she quickly found, don't mess with it or you'll interrupt the integrity of the whole thing? Because I know as a student of the course, there were a lot of times where I wondered, well, why didn't he just say it like this? And then I found out that if you read on, it was kind of said perfectly. And then the other thing that added to it for me was when I found out about the iambic pentameter. And so if it were said differently, the rhythm of that would have been interrupted as well. And then she talked about, well, sometimes I'd see it on the blackboard, and this is all mental activity, I presume. So, long story short, I found it fascinating enough to bring to you tonight. Did you have any comments or questions about it?
I liked how it said it. She said it wouldn't leave her. She tried to stop it.
Yeah, but and believe me, I try, right? So yeah, it's quite a phenomenal thing, isn't it? At any rate, what a beautiful work for us that came out of it in that. We've still got about 30 minutes, so why don't we turn to the study that we're doing here with Charles Anderson. So I am, let me clean up my screen here a bit. And now I'll share it again. And we were on page, when we ended up last time, we were on page 31. And let me get stuff situated here. And we'll go to the 12-step program. Hopefully it'll be on page 31 is where I started. Yep. I left off, my notes say we left off on page 31, paragraph 2. But I'll tell you, I tried to kind of, you know how we usually try and start out with a little review to kind of help us remember where we left off and things like that. I had a little trouble doing that. And quite frankly, I said, well, let me just see how much more we have, you know, to the end of it. And I started getting a little confused. So, Kathleen, not to put you on the spot, but he went through the 12 steps.
Yeah.
And then you get into sections down here. Bear with me. Okay. Where here we are, where the format starts to change.
Yeah.
And are these quotes from A Course in Miracles?
Yeah, I think what he's doing, what he's doing now is he brings in more. He's bringing in more of the Course in Miracles in comparison to the 12 steps. Yeah, from now to the end, the format is completely different. It's like he's having a whole different conversation.
And these seem like passages from the Course.
Yes. And he quotes lessons also. He has.
Okay. And then from the big book, there are the 12 steps.
Yeah.
It finishes up with this in these boxes, right?
Yeah, that's from the Course.
Book lessons, right?
Yeah.
All right. So we kind of know what's coming up. I think what we ought to do, if it's okay with you, let's just get our readers going and start on page 31 and see how we're feeling about it. What do you think?
Okay.
Yeah, and if it doesn't feel right. All right, this is page 31. Let's just start at paragraph 1. And Joan is reader 1, and then D, and then Kathleen, number 3. Ron is 4, and I'll be number 5. And let's see if we can get our understanding by just picking up with the reading. So, Joan, if you'll get us started here.
Okay. So is this a prayer meeting that we're having? Is this a communion with God? Have you made an agreement among yourselves not to discuss your own personal grievances because they're meaningless? Somewhere you have undergone a transition where you have no intention of bringing your individual grievances or self-identity into this attempt at union with God. This is the admission of a conversion, a freedom from the bondage of this world of death. A meeting of Mortaholics Anonymous. This is the whole basis and only purpose of A Course in Miracles. I'm not going to bring my grievances into the meeting and justify the grievance. I'm going to come to an AA meeting. I'm going to come to a course group and simply acknowledge that I am perfect as God created me. And through the release of the necessity to hold the grievance, I will have the experience of the joy and happiness of God. I am the light of the world.
Wow. Thanks, Joan. Any comments or questions? I don't know much about 12-step programs as far as I've not been in AA or NA or is it Eaters Anonymous?
Overeaters.
Overeaters. But I'm quite frankly a bit surprised at what he says about the nature of those meetings and just leaving behind all grievances. I remember at Unity of Livonia, there are a lot of 12-step programs. And on the night I do my course study group, I'd go through, the meeting rooms and things like that. And people were talking. And I got the feeling they were maybe expressing their grievances and difficulties. So that's why this is such a surprise to me. If any of you've had those experience in those meetings, is that the nature of what is going on? Somewhere where the meeting is where you come to just be the light of the world, for example. Were you surprised or no?
Well, people come and give their testimony of saying, where they were before they came to the program and how the program is working for them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's done through the 12 steps. So are they bringing their grievances? Maybe so, but I think they're bringing their history to see where they came from and where they're going to, and how by not working the program, what dire straits they were in.
I see.
So that's kind of like almost saying, if you were going to interpret it in the Course in Miracles, they're coming and telling you about the illusion and how they got so involved with the illusion they lost themselves. And by coming and working the course, you're coming and finding that the illusion no longer works, and you need to be in the oneness with God. And that's basically what they're saying when they say turn it over to your higher power. It's all leading to the same thing, but using a different vernacular.
And those working through the 12-step programs to get help,
Mm-hmm.
are helped by the testimony of those who have done the steps.
Yes. You know, I mean, anyone, well, whatever their experience, you know, by sharing their experiences, people who come into the program can listen and learn
Yes.
and use it as a guide.
Okay.
And so someone who's been in the program for 30 years is going to be able to, you know, verbalize a lot of experience and how the program has worked for them and how working with their higher power on a daily basis keeps them on track.
And quite frankly, the other thing for me is that the 12-step program, let's just take AA, the effects of it are a lot more global than how to stop drinking. I mean, to me, I'm surprised at how it's a spiritual program.
Yeah, it is.
That goes beyond, okay, here's how to stop drinking, for example, or overeating or doing drugs.
Yeah.
It's a much broader perspective on a new life.
Yeah, it's learning a whole new way of functioning.
Wow.
And going within and relying on your higher power.
This is insightful for me. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a spiritual program. Like I said before, I read the big book for, you know, several times, and then all of a sudden one day it dawned on me, this is really a spiritual program as I was reading it and as I got more into the course and comparing the two.
Yes.
It's truly a spiritual program.
Well, it's certainly been new information for me, and I appreciate it. Wow. Other
You know,
comments on this paragraph, anyone, or questions? Well, we're up to Miss Newman. Yay!
Yay.
Okay. I am the
How
light of the world. Yes, ma'am. Mhm.
How exciting that at last this world has a purpose to teach and learn together the unlimited power of the whole universe that is ours through the creative love of God. The revelation that you are experiencing in the release of your own conceptual self-identity. The core of the curriculum is that you are no longer feeling responsible for the sickness and pain and death that is inherent in the human mind, and that you are, in fact, undergoing this enlightenment or experience or miracle of the turning of your will over to the will of God. All right. And it's the act of doing it. That is what the miracle is. And it is continuous and it is going on all the time. What an incredible discovery. The workbook of A Course in Miracles is nothing but a practice in prayer. It is a catechism on how to pray, only because you need the discipline of how to pray. This is a prayer session, and we'll do a couple of prayers for you.
Okay, shall we continue?
Yes.
All right, and so next is Kathleen.
Sure. Feel magnificently divine of these prayers as directed to you by the resurrected mind of Jesus Christ. How foolish, Father, to believe your Son could cause himself to suffer. Could he make a plan for his damnation and be left without a certain way to his release? You love me, Father. You could never leave me desolate to die within a world of pain and cruelty. How could I ever think that love has left itself? There is no will except the will of love. Fear is a dream and has no will that can conflict with yours. Conflict is sleep and peace awakening. Death is an illusion, life, eternal truth. There is no opposition to your will. There is no conflict, for my will is yours. Forgiveness shows us that God's will is one and that we share it. Let us look upon the holy sites forgiveness shows today, that we may find the peace of God. Amen. Lesson 331.
Interesting. Comments here. Let's continue then, right? Ron, we're up to you.
I will not wait another day to find the treasures that my Father offers me. Illusions are all vain, and dreams are gone, even while they are woven out of thoughts that rest on false perceptions. Let me not accept such meager gifts again today. God's voice is offering the peace of God to all who hear and choose to follow him. This is my choice today. This is my choice. And so I go to find the treasures God has given me. I am not going to participate. I'm going to lay down this burden of self, and I'm going to find the treasure of my own awakening. I seek but the eternal. For your son can be content with nothing less than this. What then can this be? What then can be his solace but what you are offering to his bewildered mind and frightened heart to give him certainty and bring him peace? Today I would behold my brothers sinless. This your will for me, for so will I behold my own sinlessness.
Why did he pick these passages to quote? Feeling the magnificently divine truth of these prayers as directed to you by the resurrected mind of Jesus Christ. And then he quotes from the workbook for students, right? Are any idea why these passages were chosen? I mean,
Well, for me, what I picked up on is what he's saying, and what is, is the will. My will. It's not my will, it's my higher power's will. It's not my will, it's God's will. It's following the will of God, and that's what the basis of each of these is it's turning our will over to a higher power. It's turning our will over to God. For me, that's the similarities that when I read that, I'm going, oh, that's what they both say, but in different ways.
Gotcha. Thank you,
So
Kathleen.
that's what he's describing here in the Course in Miracles. And when I'm reading this, I'm hearing what I'm able to hear in it, what is also said in a 12-step program.
Wow. Thank you. I needed your interpretation there. I'd buy into that. Any other comments on that? So with that background, let's move on. I think it's my turn here. It reads, listen, here's everything you need to know about your recovery from the meaningless journey into fear that is your perceptual self-identity. I'll read a little more. I've come to know that I am affected only by my own thoughts. That's from the Course. And I am determined that I am a thought. I am determined that I am a thought only of you as you have created me. Who's you?
God.
God.
Okay, I'll work with that. That's what I thought too. It needs but this to let salvation come to all the world, because I have created all the world in my fearful thoughts. But I am being affected only by my own thoughts. For in this single thought is everyone released at last from fear. I intend to release my brother from the judgment I have laid on him in order to keep my own identity. I'm not going to hold a resentment in my mind in order to justify our relationships. Now has he learned that no one frightens him and nothing can endanger him. Boy, here's that thing again we just read in the Song of Prayer. It says, I have no enemies and I am safe from all external things. My thoughts can frighten me, but since these thoughts belong to me alone, I have the power to change them and exchange each fear thought for happy thought of love. I am crucifying myself. That's powerful to me.
Mm.
Comments from you, my friends?
Doesn't the Course say somewhere that we can crucify ourselves as often as we wish? Something like that?
Yeah. And there's a lesson that says something like, it can be but myself I crucify.
Mhm.
And when he was talking about carrying the old rugged cross, and you can keep doing that if you want, but that's not where salvation lies. It's a mistake. But is that helpful, Joan? I'm just agreeing with you, right?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah. Was there more from you,
Mhm.
Joni? Anything else? No?
Mhm.
Joan?
What?
I was just asking, was there anything else you wanted to say?
No, well, just that about being affected only by our thoughts.
Yeah.
That's very, very true.
And again, I really like the thing about having no enemies.
Mhm.
Other comments on this paragraph?
Mhm.
Ron, Kathleen, Dee?
No.
We're all in agreement. We'll move
Yeah.
on, right? Okay. Wait a minute. Where are we?
Mhm.
Where did I just leave off? I got confused here. I read this. Yes, I am crucifying myself. Maybe I stopped in an inappropriate place. This is not a new paragraph, so let me just finish it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I am crucifying myself. I'm not going to do it anymore. God has a plan that his beloved son will be redeemed and was redeemed. Your plan is sure, my father, only yours. Wow. All other plans will fail, and I will have thoughts that will frighten me until I learn that you have given me the only thought that leads me to salvation. Mine alone will fail and lead me nowhere. Just my own idea. But the thought you gave me promises to lead me home, because it holds your promise to your son. Lesson 338. Where is it in those workbook lessons in the 100s? And my part is essential to God's plan, and God's will for me is perfect happiness. And you remember in some of those lessons where it discusses God's plan for salvation will work. Only God's plan will work. No other plan will work. And here it's kind of restated in lesson 338 again, but I remember that from that series around lesson 99 to maybe 103, something like that. I just love the consistency. By the way, he says, until I learn you have given me the only thought that leads to salvation. What is the only thought that leads to salvation?
I think that's referring to the Holy Spirit.
And can you be more specific? Like, what is the only thought that leads to salvation?
Love.
Okay. I was going to.
Forgiveness.
Okay. And I was going to say sinlessness. There's nothing to fear. I never did anything wrong. It was all a mistake. I crucified myself because the Son of God is sinless. So that would have been my offering, because to me, that idea is the epitome of what forgiveness is. Okay, so to sin is to miss the mark or make a mistake or do something wrong. And it is so consoling when you understand I never did anything wrong. I got carried away with my imagination, and it took me to places that were not good for me. But since I did it, I can correct it. Instead of following the mistake, I can let it go. The Son of God is sinless. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Shall we continue?
Yes.
All right. We're back.
So what I'm getting out of this is that our own thoughts are meaningless, and we need to turn everything over to God or the Holy Spirit to get the true meaning of whatever we're thinking about, whatever our situation is.
Yeah.
We don't have that ability.
You can't handle the truth. Okay, you can't. My constellation, my logic system has been so corrupted by myself that the best advice someone can give me is to let it go and don't rely on it at all. Am I getting too?
Well, basically what you're saying, when in doubt, go to your higher power or go to spirit.
And I take it a step further, not just when I'm in doubt, but always. Just live there. Don't visit in emergencies.
No. Well, what I'm saying is, like, when you're in the zone and you kind of get wonky, that's when you have to go back to remind yourself to go to spirit.
Yes, and I would definitely agree with that. it's like I turn my, isn't there a workbook lesson or something? I turn my life over to God to run. And it sounds spooky to say to most people, but I try and really do that and live there as often as I can. I will make no decisions on my own is a phrase that comes to me.
And that's what Kathleen was saying in the beginning was the commonality.
Yeah. I just want to read this one little paragraph, but this is a daily reader from OA, and this is from, well, actually tomorrow, but it says acting on faith means standing without my defenses to protect me and assuming that my higher power will do the right thing for me, will give me what I need, if not what I want. Acting on faith means believing my higher power will always listen and encourage me when I'm in a situation in which I have to take risks. My higher power will walk with me through scary situations and will be with me to the end when the trials are over. That's acting on faith. And it's, it's the willingness to act on faith, and then was the key to, you know, stating that you're powerless over the situation that you're in.
So I'm thinking, thank you, Kathleen, first of all. What came to mind to me also is lesson 49. God's voice speaks to me all through the day.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of a easy lifestyle, if I could just hear that voice all the time, I'd be just fine all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so the only trick, the only goal I start to develop is staying in touch with the voice all through the day. It'll help me in emergencies, certainly.
Yep.
But I always think about in the Bible, and it says, and he will make all your crooked roads straight and remove the, I'm paraphrasing, and remove the stones that might bruise your feet. So if I can just use that guidance all the time, I shouldn't make mistakes anymore. Right? I mean, that's
yeah. And basically that's what the 12-step program says.
wow.
Rely on your higher power all the time. And we're just saying it in different we're saying it in different vernaculars, but they're saying exactly the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you, I'm appreciating what I'm learning, and thank you, Kathleen, and others that have more insight on this than I do. Let's see. I'm lost again, folks. We're right here, right? These
are the prayers. Yep.
And we're back now to Joan. Let's read just one more and we'll stop for tonight. I'm getting going here. Wow. Please.
These are the prayer lessons of the workbook of A Course in Miracles. Our meeting together today was an attempt to get you to enter into the experience of the release of the necessity to continue with your addiction to pain and death and time. And this under the auspices of the direction of your own mind through the 12-step program, which came from a miraculous intervention, and your life-saving Course in Miracles program that is Resurrected Mind, awakening you from your own nightmare. You individually, in your own dream of death and pain, can undergo the experience of the miracle, The steps to awakening from your dream of death begin with the admission and recognition of your incapacity to deal with this and the discovery that there is another way to live that is not constituted in your perception as you identify yourself. Literally, an expansion of your own mind to what? A communion and a union with the power of the universe, which is what you are.
Oh boy, powerful stuff, huh?
Yep.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm getting back in the groove for these studies. It didn't take long. I enjoyed the time off, but I've learned so much this past year. And so it just makes me even more grateful that Spirit's working in my life and exposing me on deeper and deeper levels to a truth that's fundamentally simple, but takes a lot of deep understanding and commitment to live it here in this dream world, right?
Mhm.
I'll stop share here, and I think it's time to close out for the evening, but I think we're off to a good start.
Mm-hmm.
Any final comments before we close?
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to be back.
And my
Thank you,
thanks to
Jim.
you. Okay, absolutely. So listen, I wish you a good week, and our journey continues, right?
You
Mhm.
But
too,
I am
Jim.
definitely a smiley face about the whole thing. I'll see you
And
guys.
I won't be here next week. I will not be in the Monday or the Tuesday group
Okay.
because we're going to Florida, my wife and I, for 1 week.
Yay!
Oh,
Enjoy.
yay.
Enjoy,
Enjoy.
sir. Since
Thank you,
it's
thank
not
you,
me,
thank you.
you and your wife would be my next choice. So have a good time. Okay?
Thank you.
Night all. I love you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Love you all.
Namaste.
Be well.
Well.
Namaste.